Check out Joe, he's a Reddit bro, likes to edit posts, and he starts to gloat when he gets the most of votes or likes. Yeah, he's really hyped, really psyched, cause the club is really tight and the work is really light. His training plan is the first thing your eyes see, cause he got more follows than my boy Eric Icy. Opinions on Magnus, Hans, and Karyakin, who cheated who, which engine that ain't hacking. He got blocked by Short, ignored by Dvork, but he can't be wrong, he scored a like from Truong. He's got lightning attacks on GM blunders and gaffes, true not over the board, it's only the other chap. Still his 7-year plan ensures the last laugh. Distractions detract from any actual actions. Excuses are useless, he rues his inaction. Awaits satisfaction, the status of Magnus. He bought 50 books and opened up 10. Fools ought to read Psalms, not my system. He's got 30 alt accounts on every site around. Chessable courses keep looking cheaper by the pound. He got 22 databases and 36 engines, 25 chess sets, and a massive clock collection. He bought merch from Gotham, Bra and Naka, but his game history looked like some chess copy pasta. A GM coach that he don't listen to, and if you think it is, then yes, my friend, yes, this is you. But that all changed one bright sunny day when a friend said, hey, don't you know, welcome to the dojo, it's good to grow. Welcome to the dojo, I gave up on the easy. Sweatwork's what we need, G. Sweatwork's what I believe, ratings what I'll receive. Don't you know, welcome to the dojo, it's good to grow. Welcome to the dojo, I stepped away from easy. Sweatwork's what we need, G. If sweatwork's what I believe, ratings what I'll receive. So Joe got into the business, stopped the app sickness, daily practices rhythm, he even upped his fitness. He found sparring cathartic, postmortems charming. With the plus equal minus, he was armed for elo farming. With notepad and pen, he built up calluses, escape rating paralysis with lengthy game analysis. With sensei direction, he sold his collection. Read one classic and that was fantastic. Now he locked to the spot where they checking off boxes. Young prodigies and some wily old foxes. 3.5 points per box, that's shocking progress. Goal nearing, cohort cheering, Joe doesn't hear it. He's monotasking, no relaxing, concentration maxing. One book, one board, one set, one thought. Work will work, will work, work, never stop. One book, one board, one set, one thought. Work will work, will work, work, never stop. Now occasionally, he peeps the world of the tweet and laughs when he sees the player that he used to be. Blank face staring, complex plans comparing, while he's dojo training hours a day, playing out positions, transpositions, and growing his board vision. Transition from poser to player, focus without a care. He leaves them complaining in his dust, staying with their week-old ratings. Blast past his week-old rating, each week's a new occasion. He never takes vacation, the work is entertaining, the growth he's maintaining. And now Joe is explaining, hey, don't you know, welcome to the dojo, it's good to grow. Welcome to the dojo, I gave up on the easy. Sweatwork's what we need, G. If sweatwork's what I believe, ratings what I'll receive. Don't you know, welcome to the dojo, it's good to grow. Welcome to the dojo, I gave up on the easy. Sweatwork's what we need, G. If sweatwork's what I believe, ratings what I'll receive. Welcome to the dojo.
Welcome to the dojo.
Check out Joe, he's a Reddit bro, likes to edit posts, and he starts to gloat when he gets the most of votes or likes. Yeah, he's really hyped, really psyched, cause the club is really tight and the work is really light. His training plan is the first thing your eyes see, cause he got more follows than my boy Eric Icy. Opinions on Magnus, Hans, and Karyakin, who cheated who, which engine that ain't hacking. He got blocked by Short, ignored by Dvork, but he can't be wrong, he scored a like from Truong. He's got lightning attacks on GM blunders and gaffes, true not over the board, it's only the other chap. Still his 7-year plan ensures the last laugh. Distractions detract from any actual actions. Excuses are useless, he rues his inaction. Awaits satisfaction, the status of Magnus. He bought 50 books and opened up 10. Fools ought to read Psalms, not my system. He's got 30 alt accounts on every site around. Chessable courses keep looking cheaper by the pound. He got 22 databases and 36 engines, 25 chess sets, and a massive clock collection. He bought merch from Gotham, Bra and Naka, but his game history looked like some chess copy pasta. A GM coach that he don't listen to, and if you think it is, then yes, my friend, yes, this is you. But that all changed one bright sunny day when a friend said, hey, don't you know, welcome to the dojo, it's good to grow.
Briefly go here, grab this. Now I go Cypress, here we are, add this bad boy. And, shit. Where am I? Where'd I go? Oh, someone's stealing my camera is what's happening. I'll tell you that. I'm all alone for a moment, my friends, but I definitely need to find... Here, let's try this one. Will this work? No, that doesn't fucking work. Something's stealing my my camera. I got it. There we go. There we go. This should work. Okay, let's try this again. Fudge. Oh, my good friends. This is terrible. I'm going to be the voice for a second here. I'm going to be the voice. All right, here we go. I'm just going to be a voice for a second. I just want to run through this. Not the most hopeful thing. These people need to win, though. These people need to win. Now, how come my camera no puedo mover? That's what I would like to know. Where is my camera? There we go, buddy. Yeah, buddy. Okay, so put this over here. I make it a little bigger. You know. You make it a little bigger, my friend. And then we put here. No. All right, great. I'm alive. Kostya and David might join us later. It's very early for David, and something's going on with Kostya. I suspect the man was out drinking last night. Over there in St. Louis, they're kind of disappointed in FIDE because he can't hold a basic rook endgame. So they're just like drinking themselves to death over there, you know, just to death. Okay, but we are going to look, we're going to look. His rook b2 was fine, but I think it was, even though it was fine, it was kind of like the beginning of playing poorly. It was like a trend. It was just like allowing rook e7. That's why I think the engine's no bueno. No bueno. You won't understand chess. But anyways, let's just put it the obvious. That endgame was not hard to hold, and he did not hold it. So he's not gonna, you can't be thinking you're gonna win this tournament if you can't hold that endgame. That's just the way it is, my friends. Okay, let's say the mildly interesting thing about the way this has started, this game, is I'm sure this has been played a gazillion times, but it is a kind of position where it's going to go on forever, right? There's going to be play. The pieces are on the board. So we can say it's in both players' interests here that the game goes on, the show goes on. And Anish, I guess, he's got just as much of a chance technically as FIDE does of catching him. My general instinct is that, we haven't checked the betting markets yet, but I'm guessing it's like near 95% at least. Let's ask, actually. Betting market chances for candidates today. Oh, I got a delicious little chai tea here. Yeah, so I guess 95%. The market is saying 93%, saying Fabia's got a 4% chance, and Anish has a 3% chance. And, one of the things I said on the pod is I was like, dude, if FIDE or Sindarov's easiest way to the title is just for his opponents to knock each other out. And that's exactly what happened yesterday. And for these guys, too, to be slugging each other, somebody needs to start knocking some heads together. And if Sindarov's watching this position, he's got to be like, oh, yeah, this is what I want to see. This is exactly what I want to see. Yeah, I'm going to go to the Chess Dojo database and type in this game and just see. I know we're going to see millions of games here, but I just want to kind of get into it here. So, all right, starting position. Here we go. Boom, 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 boom. I did the move order a little wrong. So, E5, H3. And now we have 274 games with H6. Pretty high drawing rate, but not actually super high. Yesterday, what was it? With Naka's position, it was actually like an 85% draw rate for white. It's kind of brutal of Naka to play like a position where Fabi has zero chance. But still, Fabi, that was on you, buddy. That was on you for failing the rook endgame test. Okay, so then we got bishop e6 has been played 159 times. It's my sense of it that's equal, and actually I'm going to fix that. I'm going to put my little eval bar to equal. So, whoop. And that sense of equality is perfectly captured in the stats. We got 38% white winning, 38% black, 24% draw. So at the minimum, though, you can see with that 24% draw rate that from the player's perspective, at least we're going to get some juice here. So bishop e6, I would have called it. Now, I can't actually say I'm a GM today, but I've seen this kind of position before. And the reason, first of all, bishop takes e6 is nothing. That's a problem. And bishop b5 is at least annoying. My gut is that black can play almost anything and be fine. But the general grief is if you move the knight, I at least can play bishop. I can play d4. And so bishop a7, most common move. And, rook e1 is a basic move. We'll see what Fabi does here. Bishop a7, mostly just getting out of the way of d4 stuff later. Any kind of grief. So yeah, equalish position. It's hard to do anything for white. Like, yeah, the database people are playing rook e1. Black actually scores a little bit higher with rook e1. We got all kinds of people playing this position. All right. The board looks a little bit weird. Oh, excuse me. Well, I gotta move my business a little bit. Excuse me. Oh, it's all messed up. Thank you for noticing that. I was vibe coding my own business, I guess. So, why did that happen? I have no idea. No idea. Stop moving wrong business. I go. Now we gotta bring this down. I don't know why that happened. All right. It's looking a little better. Let's move this baby. Oh, stop it. Don't move the wrong thing. There we go. That looks fine. Yeah, this is my first time driving, so I had to set things up for myself. Let's see, that's gotta be Great. So, I think we are there. And what is... Let's put it like that. Great. Okay, genius. Thank you, Sweet Blues, for the note. And let's see what we got here. I'm just going to read the YouTube. Ghosty was up studying Rook endgames. That's right. Oh, God. Oh. Now we got a call that Bluebaum is a touch better. And that doesn't surprise me. You know, one of the things I'll be interested to see is will Bluebaum or will Sinderoff do his typical thing where he's going to take some chances? That's what I'd like to know. So let's go and look briefly. I want to definitely focus on the FIDE game, just because I just suspect this is going to be a draw. Oh my Lord. Okay. So let's just say this is, if you recall, okay, Prague played bishop f4 against Sinderoff earlier, and they got this mainline thing with this rook e8 idea that I feel pretty good about black. But then obviously if Bluebaum goes into it, Sinderoff is going to smell a little bit of a rat. He plays instantly though. And now we get this madness. And I can't tell you what's happening. Somebody in the chat said that white was better. And I just have to say, bro, I don't know how you know that white is better here, except if you were using an engine, because this is just pure madness. This is pure madness. Now, this is still... Okay, let me make sure we're looking good here. I guess I'm going to make the board a little smaller here, just to... yeah, a little smaller. Whoop. Whoop. Now let's get this. There we go. Fine. And then we got a Jadoob. This thing, that looks pretty okay. Let's go up this. I try to get the lined up with the equal lined up with the equal. That's basically there. There, perfectamundo. There we go. And it's still a little funny, actually. Let's move it over this way. There, genius level. Okay. So, Sinderoff, okay, we just have to note here. This guy, let's just think about what happened. So, after the Prague game, he had some analysis of what to do against the bishop f4 variation before the Prague game. He plays the analysis, and then he says to himself, okay, if somebody hits me with bishop f4, I got to have something new. Maybe he's got a second or something. They work on this thing, and then all of a sudden, dude is in a position where, hey, he's again up on time, regardless of whatever somebody's computer says about the evaluation of this position. I think just looking at it humanly, no idea what's going on. I am getting a little sorry about the board. My first time hosting this thing. It's a little bit off. There we go. That's a clean looking board, right? All right. Jet 2KS, thank you. Okay. So, we'll keep an eye on both of these games, honestly. Yeah. Then we got this one. So let's go and look at what happened. Bishop A7, Rook E1, Knight E7, D4, Knight G6, makes a lot of sense. Bishop D3, Knight H5, makes a lot of sense. Okay. Now, I would say the game has become considerably more dynamic than it was a couple seconds ago, even if this is all theory. So black is doing a very standard thing where he's saying my knight on f4 is a genius, and the white claim is that your bishop on a7 is not a genius and is poor. Black is gonna, and the hard part in my experience in these positions is keeping the pawn on d4 so that the bishop remains a jerk. And that means that the knight kind of needs to hang out on f3. So black is playing pretty quickly. And I'm going to go and look in our database here. So as expected, we had rook e1. Let's go over here. And now knight e7, 98% of games. Knight e7, okay. d4, a huge percentage of games, 198. And then it's just very logical that knight g6 is next. And bishop d3 is only 19%, 19 games. Bishop d3, okay, let's say the good thing is you're just saying, hey, I'm going to put my bishop on a good square, but the reason it's weird is because it invites knight h5. Right? It invites knight h5, so it's like, wait a second, what are we doing? Now, I think a good narrative could be that even if you come to f4, I don't mind if you snip my bishop on d3. I think that's got to be the narrative. I don't mind because ultimately I'm working against your bishop on a7. I'm like, bro, I'm just going to keep you dead on a7. If I can keep you dead, then I'm going to claim I'm a little bit better. All right, so we have this bishop d3 move. And do we have any strong players? Abdu played this. Let's go take a look. So this is against this dude. This was a 5-minute game. This was a 5-minute game. It went knight f1 here. But see, this is the hard part. I don't like it when we get in the Masters database, we get blitz games. Don't like it. So anyways, that game, and most of the games in the database, honestly, are now kind of blitzy. All right. So knight h5. And now basically everyone and their mom played knight f1. Makes sense. Knight f1 definitely seems like the move. Okay. Good stuff. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go look at this other position with our other game. I was kind of convinced that that game was just going to be a non-starter. I was like, Blue Bounce game, that's going to be a draw. Okay, Craig, take it back. Take it back. It's not so easy. Let's go over here. All right. So bishop f4, dc4. Let's look at this position. There's so many ways for black to attain a fighting game. One thing actually I want to stress that's interesting to me is the computer now, it's shocking to me honestly, is saying that c5 is equality, with the point that this semi-Tarrasch thing, which back in the day we always said white was a little bit better, it's saying it's just dead equal. How about that? Okay, let's concentrate on this. So, no dead. If I'm Sindarov, buddy, I got to be thinking, or his coach, I got to be thinking, hey, maybe it's time that we just start drawing every game, buddy. You know? maybe it's actually time for us to be trying to draw every game. But he don't want it. He don't want it. All right, so bishop f4. dc4 has only been played 82 games out of like a gazillion games. And e4 has been played much less than the chump move e3. All right. And now b5 has been played only a couple times. All right, so we have several games. Oh, my friend Vinay Bhatt against Alexander Bettinelli back in the day. That's a good one. So, everyone played knight takes b5. All right. Then everyone played bishop b4. All right. Then we actually have all kinds of moves. Knight c3, knight d2, knight c3. And this is where Bluebaum takes 8 minutes and plays bishop d2. Looks fine to me. All right. So bishop, this is some lower rated players have only got here. Bishop takes, knight takes, castles. Okay, now. I'm going to say white's better. I'm going to say white's better. So we are in that game, the guy played a6. But here we go. Let's see. So knight d2, castles. Oh, bishop takes c4. Now, he could have also considered e5, I guess. So we have a fully novel position here, my friends. Fully novel. And the reason the human played a6 instead of castles on the last move is that you want to try to win back the pawn on d4 pronto. But the reason I think white's better is if you imagine like a6, knight c3, queen d4, you gotta like white. Better structure, fine development, no problemito. Yeah, okay. So, dude, if Bluebaum won this game, oh man, that would be a big bomb, my friend. That's a big bomb. So, yeah. And, I feel like one of the things that's amazing about the way this game is going is it reflects this approach that he's had the entire time, which is I trust my ability to play dynamic positions, ones where, like in this case, he's got a structural problem and he's down a pawn. Yesterday's game was absolutely stunning. Okay, he finally played a6. And now we got 8, knight c3. Stunning because, so we did a stream with Alexander Cholovich, whose name, if you were just to spell it in the Western world, you would pronounce maybe Kolovich, but it's Cholovich. He's down with me calling him a Cholo, but I had to explain what that meant. And we were looking at that position, and we all felt that white was significantly, or at least better. I thought white was really significantly better. And, then we looked at it with the computer after. We only look at it with the computer after. And the computer was like, dude, black is fundamentally just fine, even when he was down a pawn. And it seemed to me that the compensation was pretty abstract at that point. So he's trusting himself. Maybe that's what you want to do. But here we go, queen d4. All right, so my intuition is that both queen e2 and castles short are both good moves for white. And this might actually transpose back into the other game that we had here. So bishop c4, a6, knight c3, queen d4. No, it doesn't transpose back. I'm going to just look though. So in the other game, this was a 2500 against a 2300. In the other game, it was a6, knight c3, queen d4, knight c4, which certainly makes sense. And maybe the argument for castle short is precisely that you don't want this thing to happen. Because if we get to an endgame here, then white would just be better. Not winning or anything, but better, because the structural advantage and the fact that my king is like kind of nice in the center. So now when we get this, there's going to be no quick endgame reach for white. So, I don't even know which game to focus on. All right, knight f1. So Fabi takes too long on knight f1. Too long, my friend. And like I said, we had 13 games here. And is this a blitz game? Let me open this. Oh, yeah. Here we go. So Abdu and this guy, this Vietnamese GM Win played knight hf4. I assume that's what we're going to see here too. It's hard to imagine that we don't see that move. I don't like that Fabi took so long on knight f1. It's like, what are you trying to figure out, buddy? You know. I think when Fabi in this tournament, if I was going to encapsulate it into one game and the problems of the one game, it would be yesterday and not holding the rook endgame. But we would also have to mention that he tanks on pretty weird moves. And it's like suggestive of somebody who doesn't feel confident in themselves. Now, let's go ahead and look at knight hf4. We do have 13 games here. And almost everybody plays bishop c2. My general argument would be that even if we let black take on d3, that it's still a totally reasonable position for white. So here we go, knight hf4. Now, hopefully, Fabi, maybe you could argue actually that taking long on knight f1 is ultimately about this decision, what we do now. So hopefully Fabi's got it figured out. The question here is pretty hard. I think just in the database you see everybody playing bishop c2, and that's a kind of automatic move. And maybe that's what we're going to see. I can imagine bishop e3, and I could also imagine what was just played, knight g3. So, as I said, this is allowing black to take on d3. I think I'm going to give myself a GM for the day, because I kind of sense that, like, no, we don't need to worry about knight takes d3. Why? Because this knight and this knight have worked for 1,000 tempi to get the f4 post. So it's not necessarily in black's interest to take that thing. Now, it is a big question, I think, for black here, because now black has to wonder, well, am I worried about bishop f1 later, with the idea that maybe I can play knight f5 followed by g3 to kick your knight on out of there. And one thing about the position with knight d3 and the position with bishop f1 is the queen is in contact with, let's call it our key square. They're all key squares, but d4 is the cage for the black bishop on a7. And really, if white wants to claim anything in this position, it's that we've made that piece poor, right? If that bishop gets out, it could be a hell of a drug. Okay, so what do we got here? Knight g3. Wait a second. Knight h4. And then knight g3. we have one game here. This is the 2300 versus a 2400. Let's just see how this humanly went here. This was a real game, and black did the following. ED, CD, knight d3, queen d3, d5, e5, f6. And that's a pretty good reaction, I feel, where black is saying, you know what, I have the two bishops and I want to open stuff up. So he took, and now there's a threat of bishop h3. So we saw bishop g5, queen f7, and then this kind of funky move, king h2, c6, rook e2, rook a e8, rook a e1. Black is fine. Notice too that the bishop can get fixed now. Yeah, well, this is kind of hot. And then we did see it, bishop b8. And I don't know, this position I would say black is better. For sure. Well, that didn't... Notice that black fixed his bishop real good. So, okay. That's a very good human plan we're being exposed to. So, snip, snop, knight d3, queen d3, d5. Hard to imagine a different move besides e5. f6. Bishops are opening. Oh yeah, this is pretty good for black, I think. Now maybe we play something sad like bishop d2. But he gets to open the f file and stuff. That looks pretty good for him. So who was this person? This was somebody I don't know. This is I am called Miai Lu. I don't know. And white was an FM 2300. So that's a very nice transformation. And the kind of thing that Giri is going to be looking to do for sure is just, whether it's this way or a different way, is to open the position for the bishops. So here's our position here. Right, survival of the idiots, I agree. Okay. Now we have a comment from Kaylin that on knight g3, ed4, we could very much consider knight d4. That's a good point, Kaylin. That's a good point. Yeah. Maybe kind of a first question on that one would be, well, what if they take now and play knight e5? And then queen goes somewhere. I have no idea where the queen wants to go. Then maybe something like queen... Well, queen h4 is no good because I'm going to knight... Actually, I can't knight f5 you because of f2. But that knight, that could be a key question on the knight d4 because you're giving up the e5 square. There might be other moves there too. But I like this idea, Caitlin. I think that's a nice move. Okay, spicy position. I think we're going to get a big think from Giri now. Joy Khan says that he thinks that after every line with ED, black fixes his a7 bishop. Now, let's just say the obvious. There is a lot of truth to that, but when you play ED, it's in general kind of a concession because you're giving up your strong point in the center. Yeah. There's obviously other moves here besides ED. One thing I want to mention is that if you do this kind of thing, it's rarely any good because, yes, my knight might be kind of funny for half a second, but now the bishop is truly dead. There's no friction on d4. Whereas if at some point white takes and then does that whole thing with the pawn on ef. Then it's fine for black because the bishop's open. Okay, beautiful. Let's check in. Queen e2, I'm a GM today. Bishop b7. Okay. And now again, white has some decisions. I like white, but this is very hot. And very similar to the last game, where in that game we all felt that white had a dynamic position, not dynamic position, some long-term advantages. He had the bishop pair. We thought he had the better center. And here, the pawn on c7 is truly pretty nasty. And one of the reasons it's nasty is that white can start thinking about ways of messing with that square in particular. And the knight already has a knight b3 with tempo to try to get on that square. So one of the things I think black is doing is waiting with this knight, because if you're going to play knight b3, then my knight will belong there to stop all that action. A problem for white, and one of the cool things about this castle's move on move 9 from Sindarov is this kind of encouraged bishop c4 instead of knight c4. And the issue is the bishop isn't really that well placed on c4. It's hitting a rock, right? So it doesn't really know what its life is about. So I think white has the full breadth of options here. I think that's a move. I'm certain that's a move. I'm certain that's a move. I'm certain that's a move. Certain that's a move. I don't know about that move. Okay? And in general, bishop b7 is working against e5. If we want to make a strong argument against bishop b7, it's that the e4 pawn is killing it. Right? E4 pawn is very strong here. But that said, look, let's look at white's pieces aren't the happiest either. This knight has no prospects. This bishop is also pretty dead. Hard to imagine. The only way we can imagine it doing something is some kind of e5 bishop d3 thing. But like we're saying with the bishop, it's not the bishop on b7. It's not so easy to light it up with e5. Someone's saying Hikaru's making a draw. I don't know. I'm not going to look. I'm not going to look. He should have pulled a Palbenko yesterday and let Fabi win, dude. Just let him win. Let the Wookiee win. All right. So big calculation here. Knight b3 is maybe the most concrete, right? So we imagine knight b3. Queen b6 I don't like, because after castles, you have to wonder about knight a4. Maybe you could do queen b6, but you do have to wonder about it. Queen e5 might also be a thing. And I don't know though, queen e5, because then I can castle and I'll probably whack you. I'll probably give you the whackaroonie. So the real question, I'm sure the question Blue Baum's really wanting to ask is, what is black going to do on knight b3? Hello there, Ung GM. Is there any hope for Fabi? Well, I asked the betting markets today, and it said that Fabi had a 4% chance, and Geary, who is tied with him now, had a 3% chance. I'll give Fabi a 5% chance. But if we imagine, like, suddenly, let's say Bluebaum wins this game and Fabi wins this game, well, then we only have a distance of 1 point. And in that case, all that has to happen is Fabi has to beat Sindarov in their game where he will have white. Yeah. So, all right, big tank from Anish. Big tank. So I'm saying there's a chance. Let me just say my heart really fell when it happened yesterday because I can't believe in Fabi if he can't hold that end game, number one. And two, I want, for the sake of the tournament, for it to be decided now when there's so many rounds left, and that it's uninteresting for me to do commentary on the tournament if nothing's at stake, right? And I'm enjoying it. I want the show to go on. And a lot of that 5% chance of Fabi, coming out on top is like game today. He's got to win, and or Anish has to win. All right, here we go. Knight takes d3, and we know that's a novelty. E takes d4 was played first in the other game. We're obviously going to see queen d3. Now we're going to see what Anish wants. So again, the claim is that although black has the two bishops, that the bishop on a7 is out. And that taking on d3 was not cool because now the knight on g6, let's say he had a job before, which was protecting his bro on f4. But now it's unclear if he has a job because now if knight f4, I always have bishop f4 and ef, and we talked about that, and I feel like that's better for white. Now a simple thing he could try, it's not that simple. He could do this with this thought, and you'd say, oh, he blundered his queen, but actually, no, it's not true. But this is bad because then I go here. So queen f6 is out. That's important for Fabi. So I just want to stress, in principle, I don't like knight d3, but I also don't know what his idea is here with knight takes d3. And we got Nefer saying, bring back the candidates matches. And one cool thing about candidates matches is there is a possibility of a blowout, just like Sindarov has here. Fischer comes to mind, blowing out Larson and Taimanov. But there, the interesting thing is it doesn't matter that somebody gets blown out. There's not like chumps like Naka playing who don't have any chance anymore. Those guys lose the match and then they go to the next one. Yeah. Okay. So this is pretty fun. Let's take a look at our other game here. Castles long. Okay, that's the man's move. That's the man's move. Okay, let's talk. Let's talk. Castles is a move which says, buddy, I am going for it. Okay. So the first thing I want to say is that if black plays knight c6, that knight b3 will take over this square and it will not be pleasant for black. So knight c6 is out for me. I guess the most obvious question is, what about knight bd7? And that's the one I don't know exactamundo what we're talking about. But a basic question. Well, okay, so here's some of my concerns. If knight f3, queen c5, I can't do e5 yet because of takes. And then take c5. So what is white's intention on knight bd7? Bluebound. We need you to do something here, buddy. We need you to create some drama. And now, just optically, I want to stress that I believe in the black position after knight bd7. And I liked the knight b3 thing on the last move a little bit more. But that's just because I don't see an idea for white after knight bd7. Maybe a strong move is the simplistic f4. And what this does is sets up a threat of e5 followed by knight e4. Okay, here we go. All right. Very surprising to me that Anish hasn't moved yet, because, dude, knight takes d3, queen d3. Did you walk? He had to go potty. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to say I'm going to go potty, too. I'll be right back. We got some good games today. All right. Despite the fact that dude hasn't moved here, and I don't know what his idea is, I'm going to say that my eval I'm going to use specifically for just this game is going to be 0.2. So I'm going up to 0.2 for white here. There we go. Nice pants, good color. Yep. I might not even have pants on, but I might not even have any pants on. Yeah. Okay. So curious, dude, that he took and then hasn't moved yet. Well, Sectum, I really don't like f3 here, if knight bd7, because the pawns, this bishop needs to be improved. And the idea of f4 e5 is to kick the knight away to get this guy some action over here. f3 doesn't do anything and doesn't help the bishop. But it is true that kills the bishop on b7. You know. We are, though, now in an opposite sides castling situatio. And black will eventually get some play if we do nothing. f3 knight e5 comes to mind. You'll be a GM today, though, if that's what goes down. I'm pretty sure that knight bd7 is what dude's going to play. All right, Anish, have you moved, buddy? a4. Okay, so here's his idea. he is saying, all right, that if you ever move your d pawn, I'm always happy, whether you take on e5 or play d5. So he's not worried about that. And he is saying that the a pawn, white's a pawn, is always going to be a victim here. Now, one thing we want to stress is that the black claim to being better in this position is that it's that light square bishop, that this guy is some kind of god because it's unopposed. Okay. Now, the plan for white is at some point to make knight f5 a very dastardly thing to deal with. It's not clear, though, that at the moment knight f5 would even do anything. So, like, when we plant that thing there, we want it to do something. But one reason I was stressing the bishop on e6 being the best piece is that bishop f5, ef, we would like to say that's great for us because you gave us this light squares. And a4, I guess we could say the intuition is that we use the, we're trying to make the scope of that bishop strong, and we're actually preventing like b3, c4, which maybe isn't the best thing, but the idea of b3, c4 at some point would be precisely to shut this thing down. So I think a4, we could call it a prophylactic move. I don't think black's interested in playing a3, for example, because then I can just play b3, no problem. I want to blunt this bishop. So the story is this bishop on e6 going to be strong or not? And a4 also is a claim that it's just like, buddy, you don't have anything. You don't have nothing. That's what the claim is. Is that true? I don't know. So basic moves for white include bishop b2, bishop e3. I'm sure he's looking at knight f5, but it makes me nervous because I don't know what we're threatening when we play it. Also, long term, it's like I don't know how I'm supposed to develop my rook on a1. If I play a3, I'm inviting white or black to play knight d2 at some point. Another very basic plan for white could be to play bishop e3, and I don't know what black's going to do. No idea. But on the next move, I could then consider playing c4. And maybe someday b3. I'm not in a rush to do it. To, let's say, break control over the light squares. Yeah, Bluebaum woke up on a different side of the bed. Let's go take a look. This is our current position with Fabi. I'm saying this is 0.2 for white. I could well be wrong. The computer almost always likes the bishops. And as I said before, the only reason I like white a little better is I like the center. And I like the fact that this bishop is hitting a rock. I like the fact that at least at the moment, knight f4 isn't a thing. All right, here we go. Oh, he's tanking. This is the first time he's tanking. This is a beautiful thing. Okay. One thing, I've struggled with our dev team at the dojo is we came up with years ago this time management rating, and just because we have so many different projects, we haven't got it together to analyze a bunch of games and then give a person an average time management rating. And one of the things I'm looking forward to, because I think that's finally available, is to analyze all of the players at this tournament and look at the time management rating. Sindarov's, I think, would be really interesting. Yeah. And Fabi's too. I feel like Fabi just took too long into so many positions. We got a question about knight g5 being a good idea. Maybe, okay, it's definitely a thought. A concern for me on knight g5 is knight f4, though. That would be my concern there. I'm going to vote for bishop e3, by the way. That's Fabi's best move, bishop e3. It's a very simple move and makes black wonder about c4, helps control the d4 square. And I guess I don't really ever want to play d5, but I'm going to make black wonder if I'm going to play d5. I might retract white being better, honestly. Black's position is very stable. Yeah. Okay. So. Yurk says, I'm not happy with the time management rating. I think it is well suited for players maybe 2,000 plus, but for us, I feel it does not leave enough time in the end game. I disagree. I don't know who you mean by us, but I think it's best suited actually. Well, the whole thing came to my mind because I do the graduate show every Wednesday. Today, I'm going to do it later. And there, the problem that we see again and again is players moving too fast. So one of the main inspirations of the time management rating was to show players that they're moving too fast and to give them a numerical assessment for that deficiency in their game. And also at the same time, we had Gukesh playing for the World Championship, and Gukesh, and this is the case with many top-rated players, that if they have a time problem, is generally moving too slow, right? And that's because they enjoy thinking. They're trying to make it as concrete as possible. Gukesh was an amazing example of that. I think one aspect of the time management rating that might be interesting is you could say, well, isn't it going to be the case that it's not going to like Sindarov's time management? And that's true. I don't think it will. But at long term, I'd like to believe that it's a strategy that's not going to actually pay out for Sindarov, the taking too fast. All right, let's go over here. Yeah, he's thinking, buddy. Give him a little think, Bluebaum. Castles was a ball's move. And by the way, I want to stress, I think the intention is that after the natural knight bd7, white is going to play f4. And a couple basic things we want to say about the position. Anytime you have opposite side castling, the big question is always who's attacking who has the initiative. And the problem for black is that it's not so easy to organize, to see how we organize something against the white pieces. Now this is still very complicated, but e5 holding that over black's head seems pretty rough. What else do we imagine here going on for Sindarov besides knight bd7? It's hard for me to come up with something else, honestly. I guess you could play knight fd7, but that's pretty weird. Notice that c5 loses immediately to knight f3. Yeah, so I don't really see a different move besides knight bd7. Yerk says, I generally agree, but if I stick to the ideal time, I get about 5-10 minutes for the endgame. For me, as a 1400, it is not enough to calculate all I need. Well, let's say a couple things. The time management rating has a minimum requirement of 30-0. And I think you could argue that it's not suited for such a fast time control. And for 30-0, maybe I don't. It's hard to say. With 30-0, you still have to make some good moves, and it will turn into a blitz game. There doesn't matter what you're doing. It's going to turn into a blitz game. Queen b6 is played. Okay, here we go. All right, so let's think about this. 17 minutes. I'm pretty sure that's Sindarov's longest think of the game. Okay. All right, flip time. Flip time. All right, very spicy moment for our boy. Now, the super obvious question is, what about e5? Druids Mott says he was thinking of queen b6. What about e5? Well, let's take a look. That's the big question. All right. Knight d5 seems obvious. And this is going to get really hot. I'm thinking, though, that black's intention might be knight takes, bishop takes. Still, like, let's say I just play basic chess and I play knight e4. There's a lot to say about this, honestly. He could maybe even play bishop e4 and queen f2. I don't know about that, honestly. Okay, so let's go back. The basic question is e5. Another simple move is bishop d3. Now remember, the bishop on c4 is, let's just talk bad pieces. This is black's best defender of the king, but it's fundamentally passive because it's dominated by the pawn. This bishop, passive, but it's good in the sense that it's going to make e5 difficult because this opens up, and especially that square opens up. Okay. The knight on c3 is poor because it doesn't have any scope. The bishop on c4 is poor because it doesn't have any scope, though arguably it's a good defender of the king. Now, one of the things that's weird is that if I was right that knight bd7 f4 was the critical question, then it's f4. It's a very dynamic move. One of the things too later I might get to do with f4 is I might be able to play f5 even after, say, e5 and then f5 to open up the scope of this guy. So I thought I liked white's position there, but like at least it forced me to play f4. Now he can play e5 if he wants. Now, here's another brutal move that white has. g4. Hello. All right, I'm predicting g4, my friends. The beauty of g4, oh, and it's a beaut, is that I'm going to kick that knight away from the defense of the king. I'm going to start an attack. And I'm not going to move this pawn. This pawn is killing the bishop. When I was a kid, I played the Scheveningen variation of the Sicilian, and then at a certain point in the 90s, people figured out this Keres variation with G4, G5, and it was kind of like party's over. That's when I switched to the French, man. It had traumatized me so badly. Driesmont is also thinking of G4. Now, I guess, too, you could consider G4 in this position as well. I don't know, though, because of 90. Well, you could. You could. So let's ask ourselves a basic question. What is going to happen after G4? I like G4 a lot. And when I say I like it a lot, my first instinct was E5, but I didn't see how to make it work after knight D5. G4 seems to really start a party here. And a narrative that I think White could say to themselves is, I'm up in time, and even though my minors are not directly working yet against the black king, they are really good defenders. And they have the ability to play knight b3, the ability to play bishop b3, knight c4. I got all that stuff going on. And in the meantime, it's a simple plan. I push g5, and I go whack. Now here's maybe black's intention, though. Let's say g4. Maybe then you play, let's say you play knight d7, and I play g5. And then maybe you play knight c6. Question, how big of a deal is knight d4? You could also consider, I don't think you can actually. Well, maybe you can. You could consider c5, intending knight c6 to d4. And if knight b3, saying knight c6 isn't possible, then at least I got to worry about a5. I don't know about the c5. One thing is, the second you play c5, then all of a sudden this plan becomes possible. Excuse me. So queen b6, g4. So the theory is that Sindarov has an idea. G4 isn't White's only move, but that he has an idea to meet g4 with. I kind of like this notion. Let's play the natural move again. Let's play knight c6. We're going to say that the c5 is well met by to bishop b3. Now, how big of a deal is knight d4? If it is a big deal, I could play knight b3. He'd play knight c5. h4, rook fd8, and he'd say, maybe I'm fine. Maybe I'm fine crying. Because I'm still going to play, I'm aiming for knight d3, knight here, and knight d4. Okay, good. So maybe we have a tentative answer for black on g4. It's interesting, too. It feels a little bit like an e4 opening at this point, right? So let's say something obvious. You could maybe come up with a move which holds g4 in reserve. Maybe you even play like an alpha 0 move, like h4. That would be a hell of a drug. Yeah, that's interesting. All right. All right, Nikki is talking about organizing. Basically, let's put it simply, the basic intention, whether you play c5 or not, is to get the knight to d4 to get play. All right, so I'm maybe taking a little bit back with g4. I don't like the cover 2 games, but let's go here. D5. I just said that that was a bad move. Okay, I just said that that was a bad move. Let's see what Fabi's intention was, man. I don't know, Fobster. I don't know, buddy. All right, so the claim is that you won't be able to play knight f4 or knight h4. But let me just say, I don't like this, because what it really looks like is a King's Indian where this bishop is body slamming me. Now, one thing I know is that sometimes computer likes just the space advantage, but from my classical sense of just chess, this is no bueno. Like, black is going to be able to play, and also it's very unclear what white's intentions are even in this position. Maybe knight h2? Maybe the intention could be something like queen c8, knight h2. I don't know, dude. No, I don't like any of it. All right, I'm changing my eval. I did not like d5. And I didn't like that he thought 20 minutes on it either. So I'm going negative 0.2. Negative 2.2 for me, my friends. So, I don't like it. Yeah, d5. When you think for 20 minutes, a lot of times you make a weird move when you think for that long. The move that instantly comes to mind is Naka's h4 over knight e4, where he spent, what was it, 59 minutes? I don't know, something like that. No bueno, Naka. Okay, so that's negative 0.2 right there. I do not like Fabi's position here. By the way, like the whole thing in the King's Indian, okay, maybe I got an idea. Maybe this is the weird intention. Okay, maybe he's got an idea. Right, just let it sink in a second. Maybe on queen c8 our intention is knight f5. Okay, maybe I'm gonna just do my evaluation. And we'll say he's such a jerkhead that you're going to have to give me the bishop. Okay, I'm coming around a little bit. I'm coming around the mountain. I'm going to go back to equal. Or just... we're just going to move it around a little bit here till I gather my senses. So d5 is a very paradoxical idea because we're setting the bishop on a7 free. And black's side of the board is generally the king's side. So that's why we generally will say, hey, white, you shouldn't even be playing over there. But what knight f5 can do is stuff the black position. And the problem with f6, so I think f6 is maybe even the best move. The problem with f6 is that now the queen doesn't have access to both this square and this one. Queen would really like to play f6. Queen f6. And knight f4 now doesn't work because I'll just play queen d2. All right, we got f6 on the board. Now I am anticipating bishop d2, not e3. If you play e3, he's just going to take you. Now maybe, okay. There's a lot of questions. There's a lot of questions. Okay. I believe in bishop d2. Bishop e3, the weird idea could be, if you take me, I'm going to take back with the f-pawn to control this square. All right, here we got to move. Bishop e3. Well, we called it. I didn't really call it. But at least I saw that it was possible. Now, bear in mind, in general, this is the wrong trade because that's our good bishop. But what Fabi is saying is, hey, buddy, I'm going to take back with the f-pawn if you trade, whenever you trade. I'm not going to trade myself because I don't want to give you this square. And next move, I'm strongly looking at knight f5, which brings us to our next question, which is, should he play knight e7? And that is my intuition for Anish, is to play knight e7 now, just to prevent knight f5, or to make it a little bit harder to do. And the one, well, yeah. Could he take on e3 anyway and just allow fe? Maybe. I don't think. That's an interesting position. All right, let's put knight e7 on the board for a second. After knight e7, white could consider knight h4. On knight h4, though, I am concerned with g6, dominating the knight and eventually playing for f5. So the question is, what is white's intention on knight e7? By the way, another move he could think about is knight f4. And this would be really spicy. Here, I kind of believe in white, though, where we go pop, pop, pop. I guess that's forced. And then a knight to d4. Presumably this guy. And that looks good for white, I think. You got the nice, nice post, better center control, and all that stuff. So I'm anticipating knight e7. Right. So this whole idea with d5 and bishop e3 is very paradoxical. Maybe it definitely poses some interesting questions. It's definitely an interesting position now. It's not unreasonable to believe, too, that maybe the pawn on a4, scenarios where it might regret being pushed there. I don't know, that's probably less of a big deal, but white is playing for space. Now, I'm going to say the obvious. The computer has very much affected how we think about these positions. And if you really want to make an argument for white, you're going to say the space advantage here is in particular making the queen on d8 poor. Like she doesn't know where to go. Imagine that knight e7 is the best move. Now it's a very complicated position, but you just look at the black queen and you're like, well, she's not really in the game. So maybe we'll take it from there. I don't know. To me, I still think I like, maybe, I don't know what Fabi's gonna do on knight e7. I don't know what he's gonna do. All right, this is fun rounds today. What do we got? We have queen b6 and then f4 anyway. So let me just say, I think I called the idea on knight b d7, which was to play f4. And I think a good argument for f4 is that it's always useful. And it does two things. It controls e5 so that we can play e5 someday. But as I mentioned, there's also like, if we're going to hurt black, we're dreaming of this. Excuse me, that's a drunken bishop. We're dreaming of this. And so at some point, I want to open the guy up. Now, let's ask an obvious question. How about knight c6? That is an obvious question right there. Okay. I might have an obvious answer. Well, I don't know. I was thinking knight f3. But then here. And then I can think about e5. So I'm no knight d5, or at least I don't think so. Knight d7. And you know what we might have here, my friends? We might have this little friend. Or that might be that little friend, which might be a reason for you to play this way. But the friend is still talking to you. See? Dang. Dang. F4 is a man's move, my friends. It's a man's move. Dude, Bluebaum could take him out. It would be the game of his lifetime. Okay, so I think we're kind of transposing back to the whole idea with, I was thinking this was the main move. F4, I thought is the main move for white. And then queen b6 would be natural and really transpose. I think it's kind of, you got to get it out of there at some point soon, right? So that would transpose now to what we have in this game. Okay, it's fancy stuff. So one of the nice things for white, let's just do our expectations for a second, is that now we don't have to worry about the knight coming to d4, right? That's a huge deal about this knight bd7. So first question, I think, for white is, how about knight f3 threatening e5? Because there's no knight d5. Now, this guy, he's crazy. He might play knight c5, and now we don't, well, we can play e5, but I don't like it because that looks like good play. So here we go. Oh, this is a fun round today, my friends. It's a fun round. Anything could happen here. Forgotten Creed likes f4. I kind of like it too. What I especially like it is I called it in the other variation, and then I eventually came around to it after looking at stuff like e5 and g4. So, PBC says, what if black just says, I don't believe it, and counterattacks the king? Well, that's kind of, that's a nice thought. That's nice stuff. We would love to counterattack the king. This is a very big move for Matthias here. So knight f3, I'm looking at knight c5, and I don't see amazing play for white. e5, I don't like much because of then knight d5. As long as he can play knight d5 and be stable, I don't believe in the white position that much. So the benefit, maybe the reason why he wasn't even thinking too strongly about knight bd7 is he was, like us, probably mostly concerned about some kind of knight d4 thing. And I guess the argument here for black is I'm going to play knight c5, and I'm going to claim that I have good play after that. Now, here's a key variation. g4, this is a hell of a threat. Knight c5. Notice, my knights are doing good stuff over here. g5, knight d7. And I'm going to go ahead and say this is a very nice position for white. That's what I'm going to say. It's a very promising position for white. I think this, I'm predicting g4. I'm predicting this position to appear on the board. And I'm going to say I like white, but it's still pretty hot. Notice the key idea here for white is at some point, if we're going to crack him, it has to be f5. Notice, though, that the knight is doing good work here defending this pawn. This knight's a little loose, but I don't see how to get him. In any case, in this position, I could consider knight f3 or Is it standard? H4. Yeah, beautiful stuff. Okay. All right, so let's go take a look at the fobs. We have bishop e3, fe3, I called that, and b5, which I did not call. So the claim about b5 is that I'm stopping c4, and that's a good thing. All right, my claim was that now knight f5 was Fabi's idea, and that maybe he's a little bit better. I thought knight e7 was something that Anish needed to do. Clearly, Anish believes knight f5 ain't much. And maybe, actually, maybe knight f5, then he just calmly plays knight e7. Maybe he says knight f5 is nothing. That might be a fair point, too. That might be a fair point. Okay, let's think about it. A key problem for white in this position is my knight on f3 isn't doing much. Okay. b5 is a pretty fancy move. Now, let's just say if this were a blitz game, you would either play knight f5 right away or rook f1. I like, if I'm concerned about knight f5, knight e7, I'm just going to play rook f1 and then go what? I'm going to go what? Very simple plan for white. Rook f1, double on the f file. It'll always be good to have the rooks doubled. Also, the rook on f2 might be able to do something later with a g4, rook g2 kind of thing. Because eventually I'm going to play knight f5. All right, fascinating stuff. I think both of these games are going to go to time pressure. Both of them. This is our position. I'm anticipating g4. Oh, blue bound, buddy. You need to move, man. Because let's just put it this way. We are going to get, in this game, let's just say I'm going to go ahead and say I'm right. G4, oh, I'm a GM today. And I'm right that we're going to see this position on the board. Once you see this position on the board, a basic thing to say is, look, there will come a time when some crazy Sicilian-style tactics go down. And when that time comes, you are going to need all the time on the clock. All of it. All right, so here we go, G4. Amazing stuff. I don't even know which game to cover here. I'm torn. They're both pretty amazing. I'll tell you what, I'm going to switch. I'm going to switch my Sensei eval to this Sindarov game with Bluebound that I did not expect much of. I just thought we'd get a draw. No. Bluebound was playing for the win, and I'm going to give Bluebound plus 0.5 here. I'm willing to move that thing around, but I'm predicting this position, and I'm now saying it's plus 0.5 for Bluebound. All right, knight c5 play. Who's the GM today? I am. I'm predicting g5 now. c5. Another thing I want to say about this position that I think we're going to get is that, to me, a very good omen for white. We got it. I'm a GM today. A very good omen for white in this knight fd7 position is that this knight is jammed on d7. So what I mean is, this knight is doing some valuable things. But this knight is like, oh, dude, could you trade yourself off or something? Because I kind of want to come out. And I don't see another way for me to get active. Now, maybe the plan actually is all, or the thinking around this game, how we should think about it is, it's all about whether that knight on d7 can do something. And, you know, it's hard. Like, let's say I play h4. And if you're blue-bound, this is the kind of thing that you're going to be looking strongly at in this position. Because h4, there's probably other moves too. Knight f3 or something. Knight e8. Okay. Obviously, I did not predict that. But there's a reason. And that's because that's a sad move. But we get it. Let's talk about why we now understand it. We get it because the knight on d7 was jammed. And now what's going to happen with knight e8 is the knight will come to d6, and he's going to say, well, you can't really ever play e5 because of your bishop problem. Right. The bishop b7 hitting the rook. Now, it does cross a person's mind to play the ridiculous-looking e5 now to dominate the knight, but I don't like it at all. I don't like it at all. The knight on g7 could eventually go like g6, knight g7. So don't play e5. All right, once the knight comes to d6, part of the drama there is you're still not threatening anything. You're away from the king, and you can't really take it ever because when I take back, you know, it's not a happy situation. Maybe you're going to do it anyway. Queen moves. Of course, I'm sure you guys have all been thinking about rook b8. And Sindarov has too. Part of the issue, though, is like on rook b8, b2 is the focal point. And we're going to need some creativity to avoid either the queen defending this thing very naturally or a piece landing on b3 and just simply holding it. Right? All right, knight e8. Paradoxical, interesting move. Now, besides h4, does white have an interesting plan? We have knight b3 being mentioned in the chat. Yeah, it's a thought. I don't really like it too much, but it's a thought. I basically don't see what we're going to do after knight d6. Now, I still believe in white, but it's interesting when you play alpha 0 and you go h4. One of the hard things for us humans is like, it's not always exactly clear how this h-pawn is going to play out. Whereas the computer is just like, dude, that's a nice spot for the pawn. Knight d6, h5. I'm going to go ahead and predict this position. I'm going to predict this position. And let's play rook a b8. And the point, of course, of rook a b8 is to say, bro, I'm threatening this pawn now. So if you're white playing h4, h5, you know, you run into this basic threat that black gets to create. Now, maybe this is an exclam move. Gets out of the way of the diagonal. And says, you don't have any threats. Let's say bishop a8 for a second, just for kicks. Well, he might have a threat, see? So now our knight can't move because this pawn falls. Bishop b3. I still like white. It looks pretty complicated though, doesn't it? Maybe knight b5 or something. Maybe knight b5. That's complicated. I would say the party's just starting here. h6, g6 both come to mind. So this is what I mean about, do I got sound issues? Someone tell me. I hate it when someone says I have sound issues. Let's see over here. Sometimes when I reboot the computer, it hoses me with sound stuff. Sweet Blue says no. Sounds good. Okay, we're gonna stay with that then. We're gonna believe that. So, knight e8. Here's our move. Besides h4, h5, does anyone have an idea? One thought I just want to mention is that a lot of times when you play h4, the intention is to play g6, so that if hg, we just smack him. But here I think fg, it's fortunate for black that the pawn here is guarded. Yeah, that's fortunate. Now, still complicated? Yeah, it's still pretty complicated, I'll tell you that. We might even see something like that, you know. Rook f4 obviously also move. I don't believe in g6, but I just wanted to throw it out there as one of the key ideas for black in the for white in the position. Yeah. Okay. So, Rayson was actually in the chat mentioning the same idea with g6. Poor minds think alike. All right. Let's briefly check in on fobs here. We got b4. Interesting. It was a big think. And now ab, ab. ab played fairly quickly. And honestly, guys, I just feel like this is going towards a draw. That's what it looks like. In which case, it's really just a battle for second place. One of these guys, you know, they need to take it up a notch here. Now, if you're going to make an argument for white, it's that multiple pieces want to use the e7 square. So, for example, the rooks would like to be connected, and the queen doesn't really want to go here because knight f5 looks kind of scary. But there's all kinds of moves for black. Maybe queen e8, simple basic move. I don't think rook a1 is going to do much to us, you know. I'm sure knight e7 is also a simple basic move. Now that the A-file's open, we can't do our rook f1 business anymore, which is one of the reasons I just felt like the opportunity or chances of this game going to a draw are much higher. So Fabi and Anish are like, yeah, Bluebaum, you do the work for us. We're not going to win any games. You do the work for us, buddy. Now, one obvious thing we got to say is that this... If it looks scary for anybody, it's Bluebaum, because we are now dealing with a 26 minute advantage. Like I said, it's going to get hot. So even if the computer likes white here, it's still very hot. And those variations we were just looking at, oh my God. Okay, another idea that just crossed my mind, makes a lot of sense actually, is rook f1, knight d6, f5. That's a hell of a drug. I don't know what's happening. Rook f1's a nice idea. And again, it's the claim is that our bishop on c4 is poor, and we got to fix that thing. To call this hairball, though, doesn't even begin to approach what's going on. This is a mess. But that's what, that's what, when it turns into an attack on opposite wings, it will turn into a mess. I'm leaning towards this, by the way. I think h4, h5, I believe in it, but it's a little abstract for my chumpian mind. Whereas rook f1 is nice because I get off the diagonal and I'm working immediately to fix the bishop on c4. Yeah, that's a wild. Nikki's talking about how if he wins today, we would have beaten everybody. Bluebound was the only guy, one of the few people to hold him to a draw last time. All right, so here we go. This is our business here. This is our business here. We're still on this position. Little, I don't know if it's strange, but basically what's interesting about AB and then tanking on this move is you're kind of saying, well, I was always going to take on B3. I was never just going to let it hang out. And now I'll figure it out. Again, the computer is going to say that white has some space. And one thing that just crossed my mind is maybe at some point we can claim something with c4 and if takes, and we pressure the pawn. So for example, if queen e8, maybe c4 then. Maybe I'm threatening c5. Maybe we got a little something, something. By the way, this eval bar I got up here, this is the human eval bar, is for my evaluation of the Bluebound game. Whew, hot. Okay, so here we are, 90-80's tanking. Bluebound, buddy, this is ultimately going to be an intuitive decision between rook f1 and h4. You will not be able to calculate this out. I like rook f1. I like rook f1 because it's a plan that involves getting our rook off of the diagonal of the bishop. And immediately by playing f5 begins to involve the bishop on c4. Tommy Fowl, thank you for following. Right, Kaylin. I do think, though, I know that there's so many positions where that h-pawn just runs up the board and it's just a pain in the ass. So I know he's thinking about it. But I'm with you, and I like saying that it involves pieces. We're just going to, forget the h-pawn stuff for a second. Let's just power him. Now, one key question I don't have the answer to, it's easy for me to sit here and say things, is in this position, where do I put the queen? Notice the knight on d6 really covers this square well. And I don't know, let's just, Queen f2, maybe. I don't like it though because I don't want to ever trade the queens. Like for example, queen f2, maybe he's just instantly okay after this move. Maybe not. But that's one of the things he's probably thinking about right now. Where does the queen go in this position? h5, I guess, would be a natural move. But then, okay, so g6 is the threat. All right, I can think about this, though. And I can think about this. Calling this spicy is an understatement. I mean, I got rook d4. I might play rook over. Very hard to evaluate. You got to believe in white, though, right? You got to believe in white. Skevik says, you like endgames and always yell at us for playing too fast, but with only major pieces on the board, do you have a clue why Esipenko spent 46 minutes on a move? I'm not going to look at Esipenko. Not going to do it. He lost my respect yesterday when he didn't go for it. Not going to look at him no more. He's done to me. Now, Bluebaum, buddy, I transfer game of the day to you because you're playing this position, but you must move. It's not going to be something you can calculate, buddy. All right, here we go. All right, I'm going to go ahead on a limb. I'm going to say we are going to see this position here, 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 here. And one of the things I want to say is g6 is always like a hell of a drug thing for black to think about. Here, though, I think you take twice and then you have, okay, what do you do? What do you do? What do you do? Bishop b3. What a chump. What a chump. What are you doing, buddy? All right, obviously I don't like it, but let's try to imagine what's going on here. All right, so let's make a natural move. Knight d6. What's the intention? Knight c4, no lo puedo because of knight b3. Bishop c2 doesn't feel right because of rook a b8. So I don't get bishop b3. Can someone in chat explain bishop b3 to me? Bishop b3, knight d6. What are we doing? Does he want knight a4 now? It's really weird. That's all I got, actually, is knight a4 at the moment, but I don't like any of it. Niniak is with me, is it maybe knight a4, but it doesn't look right. It looks like real weenie chess to me. All right, someone is saying bishop c2. Kaylin is saying this, and maybe, okay, so maybe this is a thought. Bishop c2. So the bishop would like to look over here. And then on the obvious rook a b8, he's saying now we play this move. I don't like any of it, but okay. I think at the minimum, it's like something for us to think about. One reason I don't like it is at some point the knight's going to come here. Oh, bishop b3 does not look good. All right, you know what I have to do? I have to reduce my eval. There's just no way like I can claim 0.5 if that's the move. So we're going down to 0 here. Going back to 0 for this. Okay, then I go over here. Let's check the YouTube chat. What do they got to say? Okay. Fabi, what have you done? AB3, AB3. Very interesting that Geary played AB3 so fast and then is now tanking. I guess the claim is that if you allow C4 here, that maybe white's just much better with a look onto the C7 pawn. In any case, you'd think you would have thought of what to do because AB was coming. Forgotten Creed says H4, H5 still coming. I don't know if it's still coming. You need time. It's like it doesn't just, you don't just get to casually throw 2 moves out on the board. Black's going to start creating threats. So, all right, if we're going to be generous to this bishop b3 move, it's a claim that we must or we can't allow the exchange of bishop here. I guess that's got to be the claim as to why we must play this way. I don't like it, Blue Baum. I don't like it at all. I don't like it at all. Is the idea that you could actually play this move? I don't like it. Pop, pop. No, you just don't. You don't do it. All right, I think we have knight d6 on the board. I'm a GM today. There. I don't know if I... All right, I'm a GM today with knight d6. I feel like I'm still a GM today with rook f1 over bishop b3. I don't like this. Things have gone bad here. Okay, wait. A move has been played, bishop c2. So we called, I think it's Kalen called that one. He's a GM today. Now, let's just say the obvious move for black is rook a b8. If you were scared about things, though, you could play knight b5. It's not a dumb move. Maybe, yeah, knight b5. If knight c4, I can play knight c3 and damage L structure. Still, maybe that's his intention. Knight b5, knight c4. All right, so main question, rook a b8. It's hard to imagine another move here besides knight b3. And now black has several moves. This one. You know, and there's no threat, so I could play rook fd8 too. All right, so here we come. Bishop c2, a5, played pretty quickly. Intuitive move. Someone in chat mentioned this as well. Pretty basic stuff. And maybe dude did not take this into account. It feels so nasty for white. Now, let's just say an obvious problem. On bishop a6, when the queen moves, there's always a knight d3 check. Well, that's not very nice. What are you going to do now? Knight c4? I don't know what you're going to do. Also, the bishop coming to a6, like, part of the whole story here was that the bishop was talking to the e4 pawn, and it was kind of bad for that reason. The only way that bishop c2 is an amazing piece is if we somehow blow it open with e5. I don't see it. Now, is it madness for him to play e5 here? I mean, that's speculative. So, the first point would be bishop takes, pawn takes, and now, I don't know, bishop can go 1,000 different places. Let's just put it back. Why should white be crushing here? Unclear, right? Unclear. I don't know. Yeah. No me likey for white. I might even change my eval to better for black now. I don't know. This whole thing with bishop b3 to c2 is so slow. It doesn't even improve the bishop, honestly. Notice what we were talking about before, like the queen had defensive lateral opportunities and now she doesn't. What are you doing, buddy? What are you doing? And, you know, at least with rook f1, f5, your bishop had chances of doing something here, and now there's no chance of anything. You're just being chumped. So I don't know. I guess you got to try to bail out now with knight c4. I'm not liking any of this, though. Imagine boom, boom, and black has many reasonable moves. One of the rooks to b8 makes a lot of sense. Queen b4 makes a lot of sense. Bishop d3 makes some sense. So what are we doing? You tell me. I don't understand blue bound. Oh, man. All right, I'm going negative. Dude, he's going to win this game and the tournament's going to be over. The tournament over. I'm going negative 0.2. This thing that Blue Bound did was a disgrace. Yeah, he's doing something. I don't know what he's doing. He's blowing it. All right, let's go look in on this. Queen b8, c4, queen b6. Logical play. Black is fine. Black is fine. Now, the only move that would challenge anything is knight f5. Maybe black is even thinking of a potential knight f4 after knight f5. I don't know. This tournament, my friend, is going Sindarov's way. I'll tell you that. I will tell you that. Kostya's really sleeping in. Like I said, I think they had a FIDE Death Watch party last night. It's not really a party. But they had a death watch for FIDE last night in St. Louis, and there was some drinking going on. And he wrote me this morning. He's like, you know what, buddy? I don't think I can do the stream today. Because everybody in St. Louis was like, you can't play rook endgames. And so, you know, when you can't play rook endgames, it's pretty rough. It's pretty rough. This position, by the way, I feel is just fine for black. Totally fine. No problemo. No problemo. No problemo at all. Maybe I'd rather even be black here. You know, why not? I don't even know if Kostya drinks, but I've never actually seen him drink. I'm just trying to imagine, like, why did he suddenly? It was a late thing on Discord that I got. It's like, I don't think I'm going to be there tomorrow morning, you know. So that just tells me one thing, and that is that there was a dojo, a FIDE Death Watch party, because he can't play rook endgames. It's a bummer, man. Not so easy when you cannot play the rook endgames. I'll tell you that. Oh. Well, this might be over. This might be over. This tournament might just, you know, we might be calling it right here. Calling it. I will say the only good news is we got it is Trump doing his madness at least put in check for a little bit, dude. At least a little bit, man. Market's up. Hopefully no one has to die. It's just this stupid madness. At least we got that going on. Bluebaum says, someone says knight c4. I called that. I'm a GM today. I didn't like it. I definitely think black is. I'm so upset with the way Bluebaum played that I'm just naturally saying to myself that Sindarov is better. But let's just check how true that is. So he could probably get away with queen a6. He's thinking about it a little bit, but what is El Problemito and just take him? Like, let's say I play queen b4. Isn't that a pain in the butt, dude? Isn't that a pain in the butt? What does he want? Rook d4? You want something weird like that? I guess. So he's already, like, his game is already dependent on weird resources like that. Now, trash format or not, Arsenal fan, like, Fabi can't play rook endgames. And you ain't going to do anything if you can't play rook endgames. So, knight c4. Let's try to do a little guess the move here. Queen a6 seems fully playable. Queen b4 is probably also fully playable. Knight c4, fully playable. Let's ask another obvious question. Knight c4, queen c4, bishop a6. How do we feel about this position? I think we feel bad. I think we feel like, oh, that's looking good for black. How could that not be looking good for black? Are you kidding me? Come on now. What are you going to do? This sad thing? Maybe that's the sad thing you do. But notice in all these positions, white's just praying to hold on. And the bummer is, like, black has loads of opportunities now in this position. Loads of opportunities. He's got bishop a6. He's got queen b4. He's got probably a4. Why not? Rook fb8. Why not? White has lost the initiative. And if he was able to take some lessons from me, the chump GM, I'd say Bluebaum, buddy, when there's attack on opposite sides, initiative is everything. And you can't be pussyfooting around with no bishop b3, bishop c2. That's not the way chess is played. It was either h4 or rook f1, buddy. Dang. Oh, man. That's what we're looking at today. It's really sad. We're witnessing the end of Fabi, end of life as we know it. And then what? What do we do? Does Dojo cover this after if it goes down like the way it's looking, with like a chump draw with Fabi and then Sindarov winning this? I think the chances go. I mean, it's like vanishingly small at that point. Vanishingly small. All right. What do I have my little eval bar at? To me, this is so nasty. I'm taking it down to -0.8. And here at this point too, it's like black is spoiled for choice. One metaphor I really like is I came up with yesterday, where it's like the problem is sometimes like you're at the candy shop or the ice cream shop, and you got so many nice moves you don't know which one to take. Rook fb8 looks great. I mean, white doesn't have any threats, dude. So when you have no threats, you got no pets. Yeah. Rook FB8. Let's just put it on the board. That's a brutalistic move. One thing I notice, there's a lot of times when lower rated players are on the attack and they'll do this because they're like, and it's often wrong because the A rook is not in the game, and where it usually happens is reverse colors, that kind of thing. But here, the A rook, I think, is involved. I think it's involved, man. And yeah, it doesn't look good. Doesn't look good. You can't do knight A4 because I'll snip snop and play bishop E4. And it's just bringing another piece to the attack. I'm threatening knight E4. You want to play B3? Good luck with that, buddy. Good luck with that, B3. So I don't know. That looks terrible. I like rook FB8. I do think black has multiple options, though, here. Multiple options. So this is looking nasty. Definitely not resignable. I think, though, that you're after the game, you might just say to yourself, I'm not a chess player, so I'm going to resign life. That's possible. But that's after the game. That's like FIDE yesterday. I was like, well, I can't play rook end games. Is Sindarov having a Fischer-level dominance run? Well, it's just one tournament so far. It's one tournament. But you know what we'll do? Actually, interesting question. Let's go ask what the active live ratings are. So Sindarov is 2769. That's looking pretty good, dude. 2769, fifth in the world. To have Fischer-level dominance, you would have to win several more events and pass Carlsen. That's what he has to have for Fischer-level dominance. See, yeah, let's put that in perspective. To have Fischer-level dominance, you would need a rating of 2940. That's 100 points higher than Carlsen. I think Fischer was 120 points higher at the Fischer-level dominance. So no, we're seeing a great run by Sindarov by all accounts, but not yet Fischer level. That would require a little something more. Yeah. We are seeing, though, of course, one of the best performances, if I guess the best so far, in this, let's call it the modern history of this candidates tournament. That for sure. All right, he's tanking, looking great. What are you doing here, Fabi? Knight F5 finally played, rook FE8. Is that an interesting move? Kinda. What is the intention? Knight F8? To G, I don't know, actually. I don't know if I get that move. The only thing my mind is coming up with the intention here is maybe some kind of maneuvering here. I don't know, actually. Rook E8's a little mysterious to me. The good news for black is I don't know what white's doing. I really don't know. I really don't know. Yeah, floppy, buddy. It's not looking good. It's not looking so great. Not looking great. I also don't have forever. I was hoping Kostya or David would come in to take over because I got to do a class. We got these really cool live classes, and I got to get ready for that. I got a little bit still, but we have that where we're doing today. It's players who are between 1250 ChessCom and about 1500 ChessCom. We have different rating levels, and we take a look at someone's training and the games that they've played recently. And they also work amongst themselves. That's it. We started that in January. That's been a cool thing. It's been also really fun to teach. Icy Tune. Icy Tune. We haven't seen Icy Tune in a long time. It's talking about knight h8, f7, then expand. Maybe, but the knight on f7, besides stopping knight h6, doesn't do too much. Plus, you didn't need rook e8 to do that, right? No. But the bigger problem for Fabi, okay, is let's just say rook e8 was a move that's passing. What do I do? What am I doing in this posiziaz? I don't know. I don't know what it is you're doing, buddy. I really don't know. If you want to win the game, it's kind of like you have to organize a g4. I think g4 currently runs into knight f4, but that's something you could be dreaming about if you're going to dream about something. Dream about taking some risks. I can dream about you if I can hold you tonight. Arsenal fan, talking about king h2, yeah. You could talk maybe about king f2 as well. There's problems all around. There's always a question of what's going to happen here. In fact, for my little chump mind, I would say that would be the intuitive move for me, fb8, to give white some questions about, like, how are you going to feel when I play bc someday? I can dream about you. All right, what do we got? Rook fb8. Oh, I'm a GM today, buddy. I'm a GM today. Oh, man. Goodbye. Goodbye, bud. When you play this soft chess, Blue Mountain, you deserve it all, my friend, I'm afraid. I hate to tell it to you, but that is the truth. You deserve everything now that you're going to reap the whirlwind over here, as they say. You have no threats. Your all the play is too slow, and he's about to mate you. And that's what they call not so pleasant for a peasant. That's what they call it. Well, let me just say, we got a question about B3 fan from Arsenal fan. And one of the things we just got to say about B3 is white has completely lost the initiative with opposite sides castling. There's no compensation. For example, it doesn't matter about the pawn weakness now with C7. It doesn't matter, dude. It doesn't matter anymore. As long as the queens don't come off the board. That's the white's only hope is the queens come off the board. We got to move. Queen D4. Okay, I was thinking about this. Here we're dreaming of trading queens somehow. Now, let's ask a first question. Is white even threatening knight A4? My gut is no, he's not. Because I'll play knight takes A4, and on bishop A4, I have bishop takes E4. Goodbye. So the first candidate move for black is going to be this move. That's going to be the first candidate move. There might be other things, though. Now, is it good news? I don't want to stretch it too much, but bishop a6, knight a4, maybe we do survive. That might be an example of survival. So let's say I play a4. Could he play bishop takes a4? Could he play knight takes a4? It's very doubtful, the whole thing. Okay, we got to move. Bishop c6, very simple chess. Deny all the knight a4 garbage, open the rook. Good move. Also, someday we might put the bishop back. That's just simple chess. And you know what it says? It says, white, you don't have anything. You know tango moves to play. Very simple chess. I like it a lot. I should have considered that the main move. It was so basic that I didn't even consider it. And now let's just say, hey, we got a threat. What do you want to do, buddy? What do you want to do? There's no knight a4. Do you want to play b3 like a sad sack? Oh. b3 a4. I don't know how you even claim to survive in that, my friends. Yeah, this is awful. There's ideas too now of like queen a7 followed by rook b4. Notice that queen d8 is met again by bishop e8. Just simple, get out of here, you fool. You don't have to play rook b4. I'm just saying that's one of the many ideas. All right, I'm going to ask for help from Kosi and David. If I can't hold you tonight. All right. Well, Eli, I think Bluebaum had a great beginning of the game, and then he didn't understand that in opposite sides castling, the initiative has everything. It was to nobody's surprise that bishop b3, bishop c2 didn't work out. Nobody is surprised. I don't, least of all Bluebaum. He'd be like, wait, Cry told me about the opposite sides castling deal. He said, I got to get something going. And now look at my life. b3 is almost like the only move, too. You play knight e2, just as an example. I'm sure a4 is a beautiful move, but look, we can just take the pawn and say thank you very much. And that's a winning endgame, I think. It's just I pressed your center. Oh. I can dream about you. Sindarov is wasting this fool. I can dream about you. If I can't hold you tonight. That's terrible. All right, let's see if Fabi found a plan. No, he has not found a plan. All right, let's keep it here. Yeah, this is miserable. I'm gonna go ahead and say I'm gonna call it. I'm gonna go. I got my little eval bar. I had 80.8 before. That's 1.6, negative 1.6, which means technically winning, but you got to find a couple good moves to finish it off. That's what it means in human talk. We had a big debate in a previous stream where we had a computer guy say, I didn't know what I was talking about, and actually -1 meant there was a 50% chance of winning. And I was like, dude, we were the ones, the humans came up with this 1 and stuff. You guys appropriated it. Why did we come up with 1? Because somewhere in like 1915, I don't know when it happened. I kind of want to know actually when it happened now. But somebody said, hey, let's use a pawn as the base value of 1, and let's try to create the values of the other pieces on that base value. That's how we came up with 1. And so it had nothing to do with percentages of winning or any crud like that. And we kind of evolved from there, actually, too. A podcast I want to do is the queen worth 10 instead of 9? Back in the day, that's what they said. They said it was worth 9. Yeah. And one of the reasons they said 9 was they were like, oh, we have positions where the 2 rooks beat the queen. But actually, there's probably more positions where the queen beats the rooks. $6.7. All right, Fabi, did you find a plan, buddy? No. This is so disappointing. Well, Blue Bound Bud, you blew it, man. You blew it. You're going down again. These guys left me in the lurch, man. They were like, dude, we're not interested. We're not interested in covering this thing over here. Cry, you do it. The reason the queen actually is interesting is that the number of dynamic positions that occur are more. And whenever there's a dynamic position, that just means, especially if there's king insecurity, the queen is going to be amazing. If the position stabilizes, then the queen is going to be maybe a problem. But the position needs to stabilize. And there's, it's not like stabilization is the norm. Maybe the other way of looking at it, right? All right. What do we got here? Right, and then Tam of the Wood says, Fisher said 3.25 for bishop, or just that the bishop's worth more than a knight. And that, yeah, one of the reasons that the queen equals 10 podcast is interesting is it's a reflection of that kind of change in the way we see the game. W. Reynolds is laughing at me. Sam, an old dude. Got back to the screen. If we are discussing the value of the pieces, Bluebound must not be doing too good. No, Bluebound's playing terrible, dude. All right, B3. Oh, we knew it was coming. That's assuming the position. That's really assuming the position. Okay, so we got several good moves for black. A4 is a good move. A4 is a good move. Let's just see if A4 knocks him out completely. This I'm going to call a losing endgame. This we're going to say is just, we're going to call that done. You don't have any defenses. But maybe that's actually what he's banking on, that sad position. Okay, so if you're black, you want to try to evaluate that. You could consider queen b4 because taking AB is terrible. But maybe white can sit with a move like king b2. I don't know. Okay. So, b3. Yeah, he's going to think about it. B3 is just a great move to see if you're black. So let's do b3 again. Knight a4. Let's play bishop takes. So we could do knight takes as well. I mean, this is a real obvious move to play here. Queen a5. Now, the thing about queen a5 is it is true we're not threatening rook b4 yet. So there's truth in that. All right, so let's flip it, and we'll try to be a GM today. Figure out how black crushes this. All right. Even a sad move like g6, just to give the king some squares, fine. But he was looking for the knockout. can dream about you. Okay, at least, even though positionally this is a disaster for white, it's at least true that Sindarov might not find, there might not be the cleanest path yet. That looks really dangerous. Okay. So what we're saying is that Bluebaum is banking that a4 will always be met by knight takes, and there's no tricks, he's claiming, for black to get into the position. Do we believe it? No, we don't. But that's what the claim is. Patrick Dale, don't realize that you don't get queen b2. Okay, so knight a4, bishop a4. There's no queen b2. Very promising position for black. I'm certain he's looking at this position. So, wait, we got to move? a4. I'm sorry, my friend. I pop you. So I think we're going to see knight a4. Quick look at Fabi's game. Knight 3 h4. That's not gonna do it, buddy. That's not gonna be crushing anyone's coconuts, I'll tell you that. There's no threat from white here. There is no threat. Kostya says he's out. Oh my God, that's not very nice, Kostya. He was drinking too heavy last night. Kostya was drinking too heavy last night at the Fabi Death Watch party. Yeah. Okay, so this is not an interesting position, though really Anish could finish him off here. We got knight a4 as predicted. Now, here I didn't know exactly. I didn't know exactly which way he was going to take back. Both are promising. Knight takes and bishop takes. He is thinking about it a little bit, which is kind of surprising unless he's off having a tea or something. Dun, dun, dun. Chop, chop, queen a5. For sure. But which chop? There's two different chops here. My intuition is bishop takes, pawn takes, and maybe queen a5. But with that, I really want to stress you're not threatening rook b4 yet, because white's one little thing that they got going is that the queen can play queen d8 then. Okay. All right, my friends, I'm going to take a little break because he's not helping me. I need something to drink. My throat's hurt. I'll be right back. All right, my friends, I'm back. What did I miss? Boom. Bishop A4. Queen takes, pawn takes. Wow. Fabi's happy to see that. Fabi's happy to see that. Now, is there grief? Mr. Spleef? I think David's going to take over. But first, we can kind of get into this. This was not what I expected. Blue bombs move. Let's go Fabi real quick. Now we got B4. This is what's called getting locked up over here. Yeah, getting locked up. All right, that's going to be a draw. I said that yesterday. I was wrong. But I'll maintain that. Actually, what's funny about this is now it's white who has this outpost, and everything is relying on the outpost. And before, it was black on F4 who had the outpost. Is this a winning endgame? Well, let's look. Gut instinct is no. But it is a little problemito, isn't it? King B1. Now, let me just say, I don't like Sindarov's take on this. All right, my friends, David's going to take over. So I think you're going to have to refresh your business, and he is going to be on instead of me. Let me just finish by saying, bro, I don't know about this. Rook BA8 is not going to work out so well with Rook D8. And it's a little spicy. I do not like what Sindarov did. All right, I'm going to hand it over to David. I'm going to stop it. All right, let me just let him know. Stopping now. All right, my friends, I'm going to say ciao, ciao here. It's been fun.